Oh my goodness, we're live. Just like that. Welcome, folks. Hope you're well. We're doing stuff. We're creating Power BI reports. Awesome ones, not just normal ones, good ones. We're going to create good ones. That's the point. What is happening in this world? Let me know what you're up to. Yep. That's it. That's the intro. What are we going to do today? We're going to do so we did the report last week, which was like the Junior Burger my first Power BI experience report. We're going to stick with that theme for a little while because I want to make this as accessible as possible for people. So we're going to rebuild that report again, but we're going to build it properly this time. We're going to use the Greg Nash technique, not the Microsoft how to do it technique. We're also going to start creating measures today. Might as well dive in early. We need to learn DAX at some point. Might as well learn it today. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a report from scratch. We're going to use proper techniques. I'm going to introduce you to some of the proper techniques. And we're going to start creating measures. And that'll be plenty, I'm sure. That'll be enough to fill your brain for another week. And then we can continue on from there. So I did say last week we were going to make that other report an awesome report. So we're going to do that. Got a few bits and pieces to find, though. First, I need to find my training material, because on Learn from Excel workbook to stunning Power BI report. I think that's the right one. I better share my screen, hey? That's probably a good idea too, instead of just talking to you. Do I have any thoughts this month about what's happening? Is there any new things on the Power BI blog or the Fabric blog that need addressing? I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there is. I'm not sure that there is right now. Maybe there is. We can talk about it. Maybe we'll have a look at it. Okay, anyway, I'll share my screen. Present. Hang on, I'm going to put myself over here. Yoink. And then I'm going to present my screen, which is the one with the wolves on it. The one with the wolves on it. There it is. It's got wolves on it. Wolves. Cool. Bing doing a nice work of creating backgrounds for me. Nice backgrounds. They do a pretty good job, I have to say. I like the Bing backgrounds. These are the dynamic backgrounds. I don't know what it is exactly. I just turned it on. I'm just a Microsoft guy doing Microsoft things. What were we doing? We're doing a tutorial. We're doing our tutorial. It was okay. So this is the tutorial we did last week, and we created this report. I'll find this report now so that you can see my marvelous creation. This is my marvelous creation. I almost did the same thing. I'm pretty sure I did pretty much the same thing. And I feel like there's a lot wrong with this report. And I talked about it last time. It doesn't really answer the questions that my sales manager had. That was my problem with this report. It doesn't answer questions. All it does is just give me some visualizations on the screen. And profit by month and year, yeah, look, not too bad. Profit by country and profit sales by product and segment, I don't think do the job. So that's the problem with this report. It's not a good one, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Of course, all of my thoughts about these things are just my thoughts. They don't reflect the thoughts of my employer, which is D. Watson Consulting, or maybe they do. If you know, you know. No, they don't. Here's the report I built. Very similar. The only thing I really changed was the colors. I said, hey, we should use neutrals. We should use neutral colors. This one, neutral colors. Why neutral colors? Because neutral's better. Now, I feel like my picture-in-picture is different to how it was last time. So which is better? Is it this way or this way? What do you think? This is A and this is B. Because B covers up things that maybe are important. So do we prefer A? Or I could go, just don't worry about Greg's face and see, just look at the screen. There's that option too. But I'm going to go with this one for now. Okay, that's my current thinking. If you have any thoughts about what I can do, or if you have any questions about things we should change in this report, or how do I do XYZ in Power BI, then this is the time to ask. I'm live. I will answer your questions if you put them in the chat. So feel free to ask questions. If you think like, why did Greg do that? Then ask that question, and I'll explain why. How can we improve this though? Well, we spoke a little bit about it last week. I said we should ask the question. This was the question from the sales manager. Which month and year had the most profit? And actually, I just kind of like this. Even though I didn't do much to this, I like the visualization just better. It's clearer. It tells the story a little bit better. But I think we can do even better than that. So why don't what I want to do is go back to the start and rebuild this from scratch, because I think there was some stuff in the query that we need to address too. We didn't really do anything in the query. I want to take people through the process. So we're going to start from the very beginning. We're going to rebuild this report. We're going to add cool features to it. We're going to make it so that it works better than this one. That's the goal today. That's the goal. Let's go. So I'll leave this open. I'll just start a new report. Blank report. And then I'll minimize that one. And then here's the questions. Which month and year had the most profit? Where is the company seeing the most success? Which product and segment should the company continue to invest in? Interesting questions. Do you know the one I have the biggest problem with is this one in the middle. Where is the company seeing the most success? Why do I have a problem with that, everybody? Why do I have a problem with that? I have a problem with that because it is non-specific. Well, it's not specific enough. Specifically, what do you mean by most success? What do you mean by most success? Do you mean profit? Profit? Do you mean growth? Do you mean something else? What else could be the success of a company? Success of a company could be happiness. Happiness? Although the sales manager isn't likely to think of happiness as the success. Although his own happiness, he might. It makes me happy when I make a lot of money, but a salesperson might be looking at like total revenue. Revenue? All of these could be measures of success. Yes? So which one? Which one? And so if we're dealing with analytics and somebody asks you to build a report and you say, sure, give me all your business questions, which is the right question, it's the right kind of place to start. And they give you a question back like this where it's it's not properly articulated. I don't know. Is it not specific enough? You have to get them to tell you what they mean, because I don't know what he means. Microsoft assumes he means profit because that's how they built theirs. I don't necessarily assume that. I think probably growth. Is growth a better measure of success than profit? Profit's a pretty good measure of success. They're all sort of relevant in their own way. Probably revenue is the worst measure of success here, like total revenue. You wouldn't necessarily, because you can make a lot of money and spend a lot of money and still like have a bad business, right? So, but revenue might be if you make a lot of commission off a lot of revenue, maybe, and you're a sales manager, maybe you do think of that as success. Anyway, enough rambling about what do they mean. Here's the three things. Here's our new Power BI report. It's completely blank. This is what Power BI looks like when we first start. We're using the sample data. We click here and we click on the sample data. That's all we need. We don't need to go anywhere and get some fancy Kaggle business. We just load the sample data. There's plenty we can do with the sample data when we're learning Power BI. Plenty. Okay, this is actually a spreadsheet, financial sample.xlsx. It's living in the cloud somewhere. Microsoft has it stored there so that you and I and everybody can get access to it. We only need the financials table. We don't need the sheet. The sheet doesn't, the table's on the sheet, and then the sheet doesn't have anything extra on it, so we don't need it. So here's our table. We're never, ever in the whole world going to click the load button. We said that last time. Oh, we need Greg's rules of Power BI. Hang on. Better open that up. Greg's rules of Power BI. Never click the load button was one of the rules. Never click the green reload button. There it is. Power queries in a separate window. Look for the close and apply button. So don't get lost. Use neutrals in your charts. Don't get fancy with colors. I'm going to say with colors. And I will set up my little GitHub repository so you can get answers to this. Answer the effing question was one of our rules. That was another rule. Okay, transform. We hit the transform button. Never hit the load button. You would have to be really confident to hit the load button in Power BI. You would have to be really confident. Okay, here we have a financials query. Now, this is where I stray from the tutorial immediately, is that I'm not going to load this table. I'm going to right click on it and I'm going to disable load. Oh, I can't. Can I keep that? Oh, if I zoom, I can't keep it. Wait, no, I can't keep. You can see it. I unclick the enable load button right there. That makes it in italics. That means it's not going to load. Look, if I hit close and apply, it's going to go, sure, I'll go and load that. It'll load, and no tables. No tables over here. No tables. Where are the tables? Because I didn't load it. So it brings that query in, but it doesn't load it into my Power BI, okay? So I click transform data to get me back into Power Query and to look at my queries again. So I've got an unloaded table here, an unloaded table. Here it is. It says segment, country, product, discount band, units sold, manufacturing price, etc., etc. Now, why don't I want to load it? It's because I want to. This is what I consider my source data. SRC underscore data financials. That is the new name for it. SRC underscore financials. The source. You could also call it bronze. You could call it bronze financials because it's bronze level data from your perspective. Might be gold level data from someone else's perspective, but it's bronze level from our perspective right now. So I'm going to call it SRC because that's what I like. SRC is my source. If I had other source tables to bring in here, which I will soon, I'm going to create a calendar table here soon. So I'm going to do that right now, in fact, because I always create a calendar table. The place I always go to get a calendar table is I go to dearwatson.net.au and I look for calendar. And then like it says Power BI calendar tables, Dear Watson Consulting. And I know this is like plugging my own web, steal this calendar table every time I need it. There's a whole blog here about why a calendar table that Will Chen wrote. And thanks, Will. This is our most popular thing. Why? Because I always come here and steal this code. So there's the code block with a big giant calendar table in it, and I hit copy. And then, so if you have a Power Query, a query from somebody else that you want to copy into Power BI, you can do that. You can copy the code, and we go back into Power BI, which is this one, and we say new source at the top here, new source. And we say blank query down here, blank query, new source, blank query. And then we click the advanced editor up here because this opens the code for that query, right? Opens the code, and then we just like delete everything in the code and we paste in the calendar table and we hit done. And then this gives us, look, it's got a date, a year, quarter of year, quarter, start of quarter, end of quarter, month, year, month name. Scroll across. week of year, week of month, start of week, end of week, all the possible attributes that you could possibly do. It's also got financial years, assuming that your financial year starts in July. You'll need to edit the code if it starts somewhere else. Your financial month, your financial year, quarter, your financial week. Now, there's one thing that's missing because I think Will forgot to do it in the code, and I always have to change it, which is it has start of week, end of week, start of month, doesn't have end of month. I don't know why. It's got start of quarter, end of quarter, and then there should be a start of month here somewhere. Start of week, end of week. We'll look at that. Right. Yeah. There's no start of month, end of month. And I always need end of month. End of month is like the thing I use the most. So to add the end of month, I'm going to click on the date column here, this one. I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to add column at the top here. Click add column. I'm going to go to date here. And I'm going to say month, end of month, just like that. And it's just going to add an end of month column at the end. That's how easy Power Query is. It's just like added. So for every day, it's going to put the end of the month for that day on that row. So it's going row by row by row. So as we scroll down a little bit, as soon as I get out of here, you can see it's changing as we go. It's changing as we get to the next months. Anyway, you need to add the end of month quarter. I will update that code one day, but I've literally been doing it for like 4 years. Never bothered. And I'm going to call this the calendar. The calendar. I'm going to call it SRC calendar because that's what I said I would do. I would create SRCs first. So this is my source for my calendar. And I'm going to disable load. I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to disable load over here. Disable load, which is the opposite of enable load. So you untick enable load. So now I've got two tables. Neither of them are loading. Both have SRC in front of them that tell me that there are source data tables. And now we're going to set them up properly. The first thing we do with our source is then I'm going to reference this table. I'm going to reference it. Oh, I can't zoom in on the right-click menu. That's so dodgy. All right, reference. That's this one here. This is going to create source underscore financials 2, and I'm going to call this. Now, this is, I've started calling these SIL financials, which is silver financials, but I haven't actually decided what this is yet. So I'm just going to leave it as it is because I don't know what I'm going to create next first. Let's have a look at the data. I've got segment, country, product, discount band. Segment is government, country is Canada, product is a bunch of products, discount band is low, medium, high, it looks like. And then a bunch of numbers, units sold, manufacturing price, sale price, gross price, discount, sales, cost of goods sold, profit, date, month number, month name, 1st of the 10th, 1st of the 9th, first. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to analyze our financials data. So I'm just going to call this financials now because I want to show you like how you can use Power BI to just get an idea of what's happening in the data set, right? Because yeah, I can kind of see like what does the question that I have when I first load a piece of data is what does one row represent? And so what does one row represent here? And this is where I think people, I don't know, maybe, you know, like this is where the example doesn't reflect real life because this is clearly, for me, it's clearly aggregated data, right? This is because there's only one date per month. 1st of the 6th, 1st of the 7th, 1st of the 8th, 1st of the 9th, 1st of the 10th, 1st of the 12th. Only the first day of the month is represented in the data. So it's not every day sales, right? So when you get source data, normally financials, it's going to be daily. It's going to come from a transactional system. There's going to be transactions every day. This is an aggregated version of that. And it's actually got all sorts of things in it, like COGS, which is, you know, these are all sums of other things, right? So this is where this example is a little disingenuous because it provides you a data set that is already being manipulated to be almost, this is perfect for analysis. Like there's nothing, like I almost, it's very difficult to improve this, but I'm going to build a proper structure for this anyway, even though it's not technically, the optimal thing to do here, just because I want to show you the process. Specifically, month number, month name, and year, I don't need here. I can actually remove from, because I've got date and I've got a calendar table, but we'll get into that later. Let's just load the financials table. So I've made a reference to the financials table. I've enabled load is still ticked. I'm going to close and apply Power Query. That's going to open up Power BI. We're going to be able to, the given key was not, an error occurred. Oh, gee, didn't like that. What did I do wrong? What have I done? That looks fine. The given key was not present in the dictionary. Isn't that the calendar table being weird? Why do I have weird Power BI errors every time I do one of these streams? It's like an error I've never seen before. The given key not present in the directory when I'm using sample data. Okay. I'm going to try deleting the calendar just in case it's, or I could just delete this and then close. Is it going to still complain? No, it liked that. Okay, so it was that table. It's definitely got nothing in the model. Let's go back. Let's reload reference. Is someone going to come out here and say, you can't reference the sample data like this? You're teaching people the wrong thing. No, it's working now. It was just an error. It was just a bug. I just had to turn it off and turn it on again. Okay, I'm going to rename this financials because that's what it was. Oh, maybe that was the problem. It was called financials and maybe I wasn't allowed to do that. Oh, well, maybe I should call it something else instead. Financials _ data. I'm just going to call it something else just in case that was the issue. All right, I renamed it. That's all I did over here on the right. Simples. I've got a bunch of stuff in here, but I want to explore this data. Now you can, of course, use this kind of Excel-y kind of view here on the left. This is the table view, and I can filter the data and do things. But let's practice our Power BI. Power BI is good at analyzing data. Let's figure out what's in this table, right? To do that, we're going to create our first measure. This is the easiest measure to learn, and it's the most intuitive, so I think it's a good place to start. This measure is going to be called number of rows. And the calculation is count rows of a table. Which table? And it says here, tells you count the number of rows in a table. Except for some reason the UI has decided to cover up my little IntelliSense there. Count rows in the financials data table. There we go. So count rows counts the number of rows in the table. I send it the table, and we're going to create a measure called number of rows. Kind of simple. What does a measure do? I hear you ask. A measure is a calculation in Power BI. It's kind of pretty much it. Let's drag it in and have a look. I'll put it in a card visualization. Card visualization is a little 1, 2, 3 here. It says 700, the number of rows. If we have a look in table view and we look right down the very bottom, it says 700 rows. That tells me I'm on the right track. So I'm going to put a thing at the top here. New text. What do I put at the top of every report page, folks? I put a question. How many rows have been loaded in our table? That's a good question to be asking. Now, we've got an answer, 700 rows. So that's there because that's the first answer. I also want to see a breakdown of the number of rows by some of the different attributes here. We've got country. So I want to see number of rows that have Germany in them, number of rows that have this kind of product, number of rows with this discount band, number of rows with that. Okay. So how do we do that? Well, Power BI makes it nice and easy. What's the best visual for this? We could put it in a bar chart. We could put it in a table. They're good ways to show lists of rows of things, aren't they? Let's just use tables for now, because we're probably used to tables if we're new to Power BI and we're learning. So I'm going to add a table, which is that one here, this guy here. And I'm going to put in my number of rows in the table. I'll add it to here. And it says number of rows 700. Great. Now if I add country, look at that. Our rows are evenly distributed across countries. There's exactly 140 rows each country. Isn't that interesting? This is kind of cool, isn't it? Here's a nifty trick that you can do in a table as well, because I kind of like the idea of it also being a bar chart. I'm going to add a bar chart into this guy here. I want to add bars here. So it like colors it in. All right, like that. You can do that in Power BI. It's a type of conditional formatting. So we go here to our number of rows and we add conditional formatting, and see this says data bars. That's what we're going to add, a data bar. And it's going to say, hey, do you want to add data bars? Apply it to the values only. What direction do you want the bars? What's the minimum value? What's the maximum value? What does the positive bar look like? I hate this color for data bars. So I like neutral colors. Hey, what happened to my neutrals? Oh, we didn't load it. Okay, let's load our neutral piece. Oh, I went to format. I went to go to view. Sorry, view, and I'm going to load neutrals because I said neutrals were good, so I should use them. Okay, back to conditional formatting. Conditional formatting, background color, data bars. And then we want our positive bar not to be black. Let's make it like this kind of browny color here. Our axis can be black, and negative bar can be that color. That's fine. And they're all the same, so it doesn't really matter, but we added in the bars. So that's how you add so that's how you turn a table into what is like a table and a chart. It's pretty cool, eh? We could turn this into a chart by just clicking on, like, selecting it and then clicking that. And then look, it turns it into a chart. But we don't like that chart, so we'll turn it back to a table with the data bars. Okay, so this is our number of rows by country. Let us copy this and paste it, and then we'll do number of rows by something else, discount band, for example. Hey, now we've got different data. None has 53, medium has 242, high has, okay, so that's cool. Here's a question for you in data visualization world. Should I keep this to be the same color as this? I'll accept a guess right now if you want. Do you think I should keep this the same color as this? The question is, why would I keep this the same color as this? Or should I change it? I can change the color. I can go here. I click the paintbrush at the top here, and then I go here to probably values or something. What's the data bar value, isn't it? So that will be in conditional formatting. Number of rows, conditional formatting, data bars, positive bar here, like that one. Hey, that brings me to an interesting question. Can I, in data bars, format the color based on a value? Can I change the format of the color? I don't know. But my question right now is, should I change this to say gray like this? So now I've got two different colors. Is that better or worse? Are they related values? That is the correct thinking. Are they related values? They are related values. We're still counting the number of rows. So, in my opinion, and all of this is just my opinion, after all, we should use the same color. We should use the same color. Oh, that's not the same color. What color is that? Good. Here we go. Greg spends the next half an hour trying to get this color right. Is it that color? Well, it's close. It's one lighter than that color. I could just undo, I suppose. That would also be. Yay. Yeah, I think they should be the same color because what this represents number of rows and this represents number of rows. And so it's the same thing. And so it should be the same color. If this was like total value or something like that, a different value here, then it would be a different color. So there you go. So country, discount band, got a couple more to build. What do we have? Date, let's bring in date. Why not? These are all the dates. Oh, this is a longer one, isn't it? We've got lots of dates. So this shows me the number of rows by date. There is a thing in Power BI that one of those inexplicable things is that the default date format is Sunday. It's the full long date version of the date. I don't know if you could get any. The only way to make it longer is if this said the word first, Sunday 1st of September 2013, and then. But that is about as long, and I don't know why. No one in the history of the world has ever kept this date. Or maybe they have. I don't know. So maybe someone likes it. But it uses this. It uses this long format. Here's a little fact. See how it's got a star next to it? Short date and long date. See, it uses the long date. Now, what it actually uses is the long default system date on your computer. Full long date and voice confusion D month, month. Okay, so yeah, that is very true. That is very true. So someone said, hang on, let me bring that in. It says full long date avoids confusion between day, month, year, and month, day, year because Americans. I agree, definitely does that. You know, the one that I like that avoids confusion is just like the short date version of that, which would be like this guy here. Or one of these two. There, that'd be okay. I think why wouldn't we do that? What is the best format? What's the best format, people? What is the best format? The best format is this format. I'm saying it right now. This is the best format. There is no other best format than that one. And that is the format I shall use. So I wonder to myself, so the star means your default system date. That means I would have to go into my regional settings on my computer. So if you open your start menu and you type region settings, it opens up this sucker. And then it has, here we go, see long date and short date. These change date formats. If you change these date formats here to be, say that, or whatever, then that will change those two, the ones with the stars. But that does not change the fact that this is the best date format. And so that's the one I will use. Why is it the best? Because it's in sortable order. It's not too long. And because it's in sort order, it's also unambiguous as to whether that's the month and that's the day, because it's in the reverse order than anyone's used to looking at. So even Americans understand it. No, someone thinks something else. Hang on, Marshall. What did he say? Day MMM-Y. Day MMM-Y. Really? Is that even a possibility here? So you think, what is that? That's got the one, then, or the number. Then MMM is going to be the short MAR. Like if it was March, it'd be MAR and then year. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good with dashes. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. That's close to this one. It's close to this one, except the full year. Okay, maybe I'll give you that, Marshall. Maybe I'll give you that. Except you want the full. You want MMM. Oh yeah, it'll just so it's the same as this one except has the full year. So that would say that'd say 2020, 2014. Are we really looking at 2013, 2014? I guess we are. 2000. So that would be 01 DEC 2014. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good format because it's impossible to mistake MMM for a different month. True. That is true. That's a pretty good date format. But I've already said, Marshall, that the best date format is reverse sortable date order. And no one will ever tell me that that is not the case because it's sortable. Here's a question. Do the star formats also adjust the viewer's browser defaults? That's a really good question. Does it also adjust to the viewer's browser defaults? I do not know the answer to that. I wish I did. If someone knows the answer to that, please let me know. If I choose the system default date, that's the default date on my system. Does that mean it will also display those dates as the default system date or the browser default date? That's so confusing. In all languages. In all languages. Hey, that's a good point, Marshall. That's a good point, Marshall. Does your date format handle all languages? Good point. I don't know. I'm not sure if that will use the default date. We should test that. Maybe we could publish it to the cloud, change our browser regional settings, see if it changes. Maybe I'll test that during the week, and then I'll come back to you next week with the answer. Marshall agrees. Both the GOAT of all date formats, year, MMMDD for sortability, DMM for quick glanceability. Okay, glanceability. I like glanceability as an attribute of a good date format. You're tuned in to somebody who's talking about date formats for at least 15 minutes. Just think about that. Think about how good this stream is. All right. These are the things that Power BI people obsess over. All right. I'm glad we had that chat though. Okay, so we're using Power BI to analyze the data inside the table. We've got one more, I think, to do. There's another attribute there, wasn't there? Which was product. So now I can see my different products and how many rows. So our number of rows. So like we just made one measure, this number of rows, very simple measure, the simplest of all measures, I would say, and we can see now a breakdown of all of our tables, what is inside all of this table, right? It's a good way to visualize the table. Am I going to publish this as a report and send it to all my users? Probably not, but it gives me a good idea of kind of what's happening. It reconciles, so I can see 700 at the bottom of each one of these things. There's no blanks. There's no missing data. Use Power BI for data quality reporting because it's good for this kind of stuff, right? And then you can now when you've got when you load a new set of data, let's go in and I edit that spreadsheet and I add 1,000 new rows. You can come back here, refresh. Does it have the actual number of rows that I think? Are they breaking down the way that I thought? Is there any blanks in any of these attributes? Like this report does answer a lot of questions around what is happening inside that table. So in my opinion, it's worth potentially building this type of stuff, particularly if you're unfamiliar with the data set. Just use count rows. The first measure you ever learned. And it's super useful. The other thing that you can do, and we can create a second measure now, is that we can start to see if the sums of these numbers make sense. gross sales, sale price, manufacturing price. Are we going to sum up the manufacturing price? Probably not. Are we going to sum up the number of units sold? Sure are. Are we going to sum up the profit? Sure are. Are we going to sum up the COGS? Yep, we sure are. Sale price? Nah, not going to sum that up. Month, name, year. Am I going to sum up the year? Nah, we're not going to sum that up. Okay, but we can create a couple of extra measures. So let's do that. So we're going to create a new measure. Just right click on the table, create measure is all I did there. It's got a new measure. So let's create our second ever measure in our whole life if we're brand new to Power BI. Okay, it's going to be called total units sold. I want to see the sum of the units sold column. Now, a couple of little things here. I didn't type financials data underscore units sold because look what happens when I type fin or financials. Which one's units sold? It's all the way, it's there. That's units sold, right? So that's at the bottom of my thing. So the cool thing about one of the very cool things, and something that will speed up your whole life in Power BI, is you can search any part of this whole string. It's an any search. So if you're looking for the unit sold column, type unit. And then it'll go, oh, do you mean the unit sold column? And I'm going to say, yep, that's what I mean. So if you're new to looking at this kind of stuff, this is a function. So DAX is a functional language. So we're going to do the sum. So we're not going to count the number of rows now. You'll notice before in our count rows, this said count rows. Now we're doing the sum. Sum, this is a table reference. Sum in the financials data table and then square bracket, the units sold column. If you have the name of a table here, and then you have something in square brackets, that is a column. And unfortunately, that's not the only thing that can live in square brackets here, because a measure can also be in square brackets. But the way that we differentiate between the two in the world of Power BI is that we usually, and I say usually because it's not mandatory, we usually put the table in front of a column. So if you're practicing good Power BI, put the table first when you're referring to a column. If you're not referring to a column, if you wanted to sum up the unit sold measure, get rid of the table. You don't need the table here. Just refer to a measure like that. Okay, so that is what we're doing. We're doing the sum in the financials data table of the unit sold column. Now, let us add this to our little report here. The sum of the units sold column. Hey, look at that. Just like works. Just works. Now we can validate this a few different ways. We could go into table view here. We could click on the units sold column. It is going to tell me there's 510 distinct values, but it isn't going to tell me the sum. So it's not like Excel, right? You can't just click on a column and then it gives you the sum in the bottom right-hand corner here. That's a shame. I wish it did, to be honest. It'd be nice if it did. So you'd have to go back and have a look at your source data or look in Excel or whatever and make sure that these numbers are correct. If you wanted to validate that data some other way, you could go into the query. Go to our financials data. We could turn on our, I've got some weird stuff happening. We could, if we go to, I think it's under view, if we go to view and we start clicking these column distribution and column quality, this will show us information about our columns. So you can see some pretty cool stuff. So if I click on units sold, it tells me information here. What's the min? What's the max? What's the average? What's the standard deviation? How many unique are there? How many distinct are there? Etc. etc. It doesn't tell me the sum though. It doesn't tell me the sum. Also, if you do turn all this stuff on because it's cool and you're having all of this like nifty information about each column, great. Be aware that this is smashing your processing. And stuff will run really slow if you have this turned on all the time. So turn it on and then turn it off when you're done with it. You don't need it. Okay, so don't keep those tick boxes on. You don't need them. All right, let's close that. So that's the other way you can kind of validate units sold. So we could do that. We could just like add units sold now to every single one of these things. Let's just do that for fun. I can click on here and I can tick units sold and it'll add it. Click and tick. You can do the old click and tick. What else strikes you about units sold that we should fix? Because like, what does units sold represent? Well, it doesn't. It doesn't have a dollar sign, but that's okay. But also, it's a whole number. Like, did we talk about this last time? So what they did in the tutorial is they made it a whole number, because you can't have 0.5 of a unit sold. But then we were like, surely, but you can have 0.5 of a unit sold. I don't know if it's necessarily a whole number. But we could change that here by clicking on our total units sold over here. And then we go up here to our different attributes, including our format. And this is where we could change that to a whole number if we wanted to. Does this round up if I change it to a whole number? It did round up. Dun, dun, dun. It rounded up when I changed that to a whole number. So just be aware of that. If I change it to a decimal number, it'll go back to how it was. 338240 dot. It didn't, because I've got 0 decimal places. So I need to add my decimal place, and then it added the decimal place here. So we can mess with the formatting of the measure as well if we want to. Total units sold is a whole number, so let's make it a whole number. That's fine. Also, there's no comma, so I want a comma, and then you just click the comma. If you want a comma, you click the comma. Simple. And look, it changed across all the tables. Okay, changed across all the tables. So I only need to change the format of my measure once, and then everywhere that measure is represented, the format will change. So that's nifty, isn't it? All right. So this is my little data quality report. Now I can see 2 attributes here. I can see how many rows each one of these things has, but also what the sum of the total units sold is by each one of these things. And, like at its kind of heart, Power BI isn't much more complicated than this. All Power BI does is filter stuff and add stuff up. So if we call this the math, this is math, and these are filters. And all Power BI does is filter and math. Filter, then math. Filter, then math. That's all it's doing, filtering and math. And if you set up things nicely and correctly, then it is a much more, then it is easier. It makes your life much easier, particularly when it comes to writing DAX. All right, so I want to do some housekeeping. We have done, we have not created our report yet. We will get to that. But there's some housekeeping pieces we need to do. One of them is, whoa, I just zoomed in on the completely wrong screen. One of them is that now that I have total units sold here, I don't want to use this one here. I don't want to confuse my users. I want to explicitly tell them how to use this unit sold thing. If they want the average unit sold, I'm going to create them a measure for the average unit sold. So I turn off this one, or I just hide it. So click the little ellipsis and hide it. So now if I want units sold, you've only got one choice. It's this one, total units sold. That's the correct way to set up a Power BI measure. Don't let the users, drag stuff in and mess around with it where they can get the wrong context. So what were the other metrics that they used in this first report? profit, sum of sales, sum of profit. They don't even use total units sold. Okay, so we need profit and sales. So let's do those two. Total profit. Exactly the same process. Total profit equals the sum of the profit column. PRO, and it says, do you mean this one or this one? Must be two that start with PRO. One's product and one's profit. PROF, only one option. Hit the tab key and it just fills it in for me. Close the bracket. You don't even need to close the bracket. It'll do it for you. It's very, you can get really fast at DAX if you know how to use it. So that's our total profit, which will work exactly the same way. So if I tick it, it'll just throw it in there. There's our total profit by discount band, for example. Now, what do we notice about total profit? That is one that needs a dollar sign in front of it. So let's add it in to our things. So this page, I'm not trying to create a report page. I'm just trying to create a page that validates all my data for me. So I don't care really what it looks like. It's only for me. We'll call it the data validation page. All right, so I want total profit to have a different format. So I click here on total profit, just in the middle, right on the word. And I come up here and I click the dollar sign because that's what I want. It'll change it to currency. And then it'll do the stupidest thing in all of Power BI. It will leave this as auto. And then this happens. 3529, that's $3,529,228, and 0.88500 probably goes on for another 12 decimal places. The worst thing in Power BI ever. Why would you just not make this default to something other than auto? Kills me. These are pretty big numbers, so I'm going to leave it as 0. Not auto, 0. Oh, so much better. Like, look, 0. Why not just leave it as 0? Or 2. 2's fine. 2's great. Not sure why it changed to 2, but let's change it back to 0. So yeah, when you change something to currency, when you click the dollar sign, it sets this to auto, which then sets all your currencies to stupid decimal places. The quirks of Power BI. All right, we've got a lovely little analysis of our tables here. Again, this is not a report, but accidentally. If this happens, here's a little tip. If this happens, if a random thing that says ask a question about your data appears on the screen, it's because you double clicked on white space. Because you double clicked, like if you double click here, click, look, it disappears. And look, I'll do it again. Click, and then another one appears. And click, and another one appears. The default visualization that gets created if you double click on the canvas is a Q&A visual, which is this one. But of all the visuals that you might want to rapidly deploy to a report, just doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense. All right. Click. Can I ask a question about your data? Okay. Top countries by total profit. Hey, it worked at least. That's nice. We'll look at that another time. All right. I'm almost finished. I got total profit. What else did I say we needed? Total sales. Total sales. Total units sold. Sales. Total sales. There it is. New measure. Total sales equals the sum of the total sales column, which is just sales. And we have to be careful here because there's gross sales and sales. So we want to make sure we click the right one. There is a space in front of sales in my data set. I am upset by this. I'm not going to close the bracket. I'm just going to hit enter, and it's going to close the bracket for me. It will, if you've got one bracket missing at the end, it will close it for you. Will it auto close? Here's a question. Will it auto close if I have like a calculate and then a values and then add columns and I leave all 7 brackets open at the end? Will it close all of them, or does it only close one? I'm pretty sure it closes all of them. Charmaine has a random question. Can you explain how the column labeled sales is at the top of the table in data view and every other column is ordered alphabetically? Didn't we talk about this? I think we spoke about it last week. It has a space in front of it. So that is the answer. That is the answer. It closes all the brackets. I'm pretty sure that's Shelley that says that. But she's anonymous. Anonymous LinkedIn user says it closes all the brackets. I'm pretty sure it does. Yeah, Charmaine, that is because there was a space in front of sales. Good pickup though, because it should be alphabetical. But my question is, if it's alphabetical here, why isn't it alphabetical here? Or if it's not alphabetical here, why? Anyway. Yeah, that is weird though, that there was that in the middle, so that's obviously a problem in the data set. The column has just literally got a space in front of it. Just a mistake from our Excel user. See, this is the problem with Excel, people. This is the problem with Excel. An Excel user can come in, Excel 5, rule number 5. Excel is dangerous. Anyone can change it at any time. It's not good for our friends. I think you can specify that in Power Query. Oh, can you? Maybe you can. Maybe you can. Not sure. Not sure. Anyway, watch out for Excel. Anyone can change it. Okay, my total profit looks nice. It has the correct format. It is now a very nice measure. And that's all I really need. Total profit, total sales. Actually, total sales won't look right. So let's add that into the mix. Oops, I didn't have anything selected, so I created a new visual. Total sales, add it in. Hello, total sales. So again, same frustration, more clicks required. Need to add my $sign. Hey, here's a thing. What if I change the decimal places first? I'm going to change this to 2 decimal places. That's what I want. Great. Want 2 decimal places. Sorry, I have to select sales over here. So I click on the word, and then I change it to 2 decimal places, and I hit enter. It's now changed it to 2 decimal places, and it also changed it to decimal number. Now I'm going to click here. I'm going to click on the $sign. I want $sign. It changes it back to auto. What is that? What is that? Look at my decimal places. Look at this. What is this? Why? Start writing an email to Microsoft today. I want this to be always the same. I think I have clicked this button so many times. And then if you click the up, you always get, this is the other one that will get you, it gets you in trouble. This is the classic one in Excel, right? Where you're like, sorry, I lost it. Is it like, what does this button do? Does it add a decimal place or remove one? So it doesn't do anything. Oh, that's not a button. That's a button in Excel. I always just assumed that was a button, but it's actually the label for this little box. Oh God, I'm an idiot, aren't I? Marshall says Excel is dangerous in the wrong hands. That is technically the truth. That is technically the truth. Excel is dangerous in the wrong hands. I will. Okay. great meme. Yeah, it is a meme. There's so many of these little things in Power BI. Did I delete one of my tables? I think I did. Control Z. I like fully deleted a table. That was a mistake. All right. Now I've got everything that was in the original report. Here's the first report. This had the total sales. We have the month, and we got the profit, and we got the summer sales by then. Now I did create a whole calendar table that I haven't loaded in. So maybe I should load that in now. How long are we going? Oh, we're kind of running out of time. I spent too much time talking about formats. Probably should have finished the report. But we're going to real quick. Okay, so we're going to go back to transform data. We're going to add the calendar table in now because I want to bring that in. Now, one thing about this financials data that we need to pay attention to is this date. It goes from the 1st of the 9th, 2013 to the 1st of the 12th, 2014. So it goes from the 1st of September, 2013 all the way through 2014. So I need to adjust my calendar slightly. We do this at the very start of the calendar. It tells me the calendar table start date. Just basically means I need to go back to 2013. And I'm going to make it go all the way up to today because I'm lazy and I don't have time. So I just changed this number here to 2013. And now this will give me a contiguous list of dates from the 1st of the 1st, 2013, all the way through to today. I could set see, this is what it does. It creates a big list of dates for us. Every single date. Now, this is overkill for this particular report, but we're going to do it anyway. Can you explain the trip-ups in using format? As in when you format something in a measure, like format, value, locale name, the value to a text in that specific format. I will get to that eventually, but I'm not going to talk about it right now. Because I think it's a little bit, I'm trying to introduce people to DAX slowly, and I think that starts to get into a layer of complexity that is a little bit much. Someone says, I assume it's Shelley. Currency and dates. I think avoid the accusations of favoring a region. They've gone with options that annoy everybody equally. Yeah, that's a good point. Do they have, so is there a way to make this a decimal point instead of a comma? Because is that a regional setting in my, so here I go on formats again. I'm supposed to be building a report. But is that, because like in Germany, right, that would be a decimal point, not a comma. And in a lot of Europe. So I assume that uses your local setting there, right? I assume that uses your local setting. I will talk about format at some point, Shamaine. But yeah, I probably don't have time right now. Okay. We've got everything we need. Oh, we need to make the relationships. Now, we've never made a relationship in Power BI to date in this series. So we now have a calendar. Oh, the calendar didn't load. Okay, I need to load the calendar. I forgot to load it. So I'm going to go back up here, transform the data. I'm going to reference my calendar because I leave the source as it is. I always leave the source. I'm going to call this calendar. Why don't I call it date, you ask? Why don't you call it date, Greg? I don't call it date because of that IntelliSense thing that I showed you earlier. When you type the word date, it gives you 7,000 results. I'll show you in a sec. Calendar. And now we're going to create a relationship between calendar date and financial date. And we're going to talk about this next week. We're now creating what's called a data model. Creates a one-to-many relationship between our calendar and our financials data. Now, this calendar has way more dates in it than the financial data does, but it should still be okay. Oh, look, the format. Oh my God, I have to change the format again. This is why can't I just have a default? Can't I set a default in this? Anyway, change my format. All right. We're ready to make the first page of our report. That's all we'll have time for, unfortunately. Which month and year had the most profit? Control C. That was the question that the person asked me. I'm going to create a new page called which month and year had the most profit. I'm just going to call it most profit, question mark. And then I'm going to, I think I lost my copy there. Hey, what's the trick in Windows where I can see all of the things I put in in copy, and then I can paste from a list. You know, that it's like your Control Shift C or something. I can't remember. Control Shift V. I don't know. What do we have here? Comma and the decimal symbology is based on the system locale. That's good. That's what we want. Okay. We wanted the question. Answer the effing question. That's one of my rules. So I got to put the question on the page. This is the question. New text box. Put it at the top. Which month and year had the most profit? Make it big. Make it beautiful. Let's put in our logo as well. We're going to put in our Aardvark Consulting logo. And we find Aardvark. Or Aardvark Manufacturing, or what does Aardvark do? I guess we're doing sales of widgets, so we must sell something. We said sell something. Here's Aardvark. Aardvark Industries Proprietary Limited. Okay, we put our logo in, we put in a title. Which month and year had the most profit? You know which one I'm going to use? I know they used a line chart, but I am going to, for a very specific reason, use a column chart. Which month and year had the most profit is the question I'm asking myself. Total profit. Here's the answer. Total profit by date. We already did this the other time. And then what I did was I added in my card visual, put in a card visual, and I put the total profit in. And look, it retained its dollar sign, which is nice. Because it's 17 million, it showed 17 million. But if I click on a smaller value, it moves to K, 605K. So it's in dynamic mode, which you might want or you might not want. If you want to change this to show like more precision here, which I do kind of want more precision, you click the little guy here, and I think you go to, you got to be on the card. You go to the call out value, and then it says value decimal places here, more decimal places. Ugh, but we actually going to add. So now it says 16.89 million, which is what I want. So it shows it to a couple of different decimal places now instead, which is nice. Total profit. And then the last thing I did, which I think is fun and cool, is I added in the narrative, which is this one here. And Smart Narrative is it's a cool visualization. It's just a cool visualization. That's all it is. Total profit trended up, resulting in 165.29% increase between Sunday, the September 1, 2013, and Monday, December 4, 2014. There you go. I love the narrative visual because it kind of just instantly makes a cool report. Now, this is a report that I can get around. It answers, it's got a logo, answers a question, there's neutral colors, it's got all the things. And we did this last time. How can I improve this visualization? This is the last thing we're going to cover. How can I improve this visualization? I want better clarity of my data. What are the problems? Windows full stop. Thanks, Charmaine. I will remember. Is Windows full stop the pasty thing? Maybe not. No, Windows full stop is isn't that the emoji? Yeah, it's the emoji guy. Yeah. Look, I'll do a text box and then put some emojis in it. Windows full stop. Give me a little car and an ambulance and a scooter. Yeah, that's your emoji keyboard. I love the emoji keyboard. You can make the title of your report some emojis. There's a cool tip. All right. Someone says, and I again assume it's Shelley. Sorry, Shelley. I don't know why you don't come up on LinkedIn. The field formats is almost a discipline thing. As soon as you create a table, it should switch over to model view. Populate the field descriptions and formats. Even though it's boring, you just want to make the pretty visuals. Yeah. It is a discipline thing. That's kind of why I was like showing people this. Because like you should just look at the data first and make sure that everything looks right, is properly formatted. There's no weird mistakes. There's no weird blanks. All of that stuff. You can do that with a bit of discipline. And then when you reload the data, you load more data. This just works and you've got it there. And you can hide it. You don't have to show it in the report. So I think that discipline is a really good discipline to have. Okay, we're talking about the visualization. What is the problem with visualization? There's a few problems in my opinion. One is that what value is this? Quick, what value is it? You got to go over here and you got to see it's 2 something, 2 point something million. It's just above the dots. Okay, and then if I mouse over, it gives me the exact value here. I don't want that. I want my data labels on top of my columns. But if I have that, then I don't need this y-axis here. This is no good. So we can get rid of it. We can get rid of it. We don't need it. So we're going to go to the paintbrush and we're going to change some attributes of this thing. We're going to go to the y-axis and we're going to turn off the values of the y-axis. So don't need it. Now, second question, do I need this? It says total profit sideways, but that also says total profit. And then also that says profit. So I don't need this. I don't need this one. Oh, values turn back on. That's the title. I want to remove those two because I don't need them. In chart, when you're making a chart, don't just put stuff on it that you don't need. I would hesitate. I'd potentially remove that one too, because it's written here and it's written here. And so I think I can infer that this chart shows total profit. I'll leave that up to you to decide. If I am going to leave this title, I'm going to make it not so obvious. It's too high contrast. So I'm going to change the title. I'm going to change the text color of the title to be something lower in contrast. Let's just take it back a little bit. Is that too far back? It's not too bad. You know, a really good way to make something readable but not distracting is to make it big and low contrast. So we'll make it a little bigger. We'll make it a little low contrast. This DIN, I don't like DIN as a, I like Sego UI Lite. I just like that better. Just looks nicer. What's this one? This is Sego UI. Yeah, so then that's the same font. So I feel like that is better. I'm gonna move this up a little bit so it's all in line. See how that's readable now, but it doesn't take your eye away from the important thing, which is the data. But if I do need to read the title of the chart, you can do that. So that's not bad. I'm going to add those data labels in because I want them. So I just click on data labels here. And now that adds in the data labels at the point where I want to read them. Oops, I Control-Z'd then. Let me turn that back on. Data labels on. So that's where I want to read them. I want to read them on top. Now, has anyone ever mistaken this for anything but a date? No. So I don't need the word date here. That doesn't add any value. So I'm going to remove the title. That's not bad. That's not bad for what we're trying to do. I think that kind of makes sense. The only other thing I want to do is I want to highlight the one that has the highest profit. And to do that, we have to create a measure. Is it necessarily display all months on the x-axis? It's a great question. You know, we could probably reduce this. I don't know if that's possible, to be honest. Can we change the level of, because x-axis will be in continuous mode, which it is. but I don't know if I can change the density of these down the bottom here. I wonder if I now, if I change this, I'm just going to make it a bit wider. If I change this to categorical, it'll label every single one of them, which I think is too much. So continuous, I think, is right. Notice it does change the format too. All right, we're going to create a fancy measure now because I want to highlight this bar, which is the highest bar in my chart. Because the question is, which had the most profit? So I want to highlight it because it's got the most profit. Okay, that's the last thing we're going to do. It's a bit of a this measure is getting a bit more advanced now because we have to write a pretty fancy measure. So we have to write a, what are we going to call this? Highest profit color. I'm Australian, so I spell color with a U. Highest profit color. We have to do a few bits and pieces here. We need to, this is actually not an easy measure. We need to figure out in this table that represents this chart, which one is, what's the value of the highest one? And then if this equals the value of the highest one, then change it to green or whatever color we choose. So we're going to use a formula called max X. And it's the max X over the date. I'm going to see if I can do it over financial data date. Will it let me do that? Oh, did a curly bracket. Wait, what's my format for max X? Get out the way. Expression first. Yeah, I know what it does. What does so what does max X do? It gives me the highest value. All right, I'm going to cheat. I have already done this before. And since we don't have a lot of time. Clipboard history is Windows key plus V. I have to turn it on. Okay. All right. What was I doing? Cheating. Max X. Yeah, so the calculation will be like, first we'll need to get, we'll have to create a couple of variables. We'll need to figure out the, they're going to open on, yeah, that's opening, cool. We'll have to iterate over the date. We'll have to figure out the top value for that date. Oh yeah, so we can do max X over the calendar. Not calculate table. What is going on? Table, expression, variant. Expression is the total profit. Why am I getting curly braces when I do it? Okay. This is a measure now, not a, so this is the other one that we were talking about. The other one was a column. This is a measure. They turn purple, which makes it nice and easy. You'll see why I'm cheating is because it's quite a long measure. Highest profit month color. Top profit month color, same thing. Okay, let's talk about this sum financial profit. Well, this is total profit. Total profit, too many brackets. Okay, so we need to first calculate the total profit, which is just total profit. Then we figure out what the max profit is, which uses this max X. So what max X will do will just fixing something up. It'll iterate over the calendar. So this is where things get a little bit more confusing with DAX. I apologize. But just know that this is a magical formula that figures out the max number of, so this column here, I'm just, it figures out this max number, 2.03 million. Okay, so that's what that one does. It iterates over the calendar table and it figures out which total profit has the highest value. In this case, December has the highest value of 2.03 million. That's the next bit. So that's what this whole line does. Current month profit is literally just total profit for the current month because we're splitting it by month. And then we say if the current month profit equals the max profit, then return the word green, otherwise return the word gray. So it's essentially saying if I get this value and the current month matches that value, return just the word green. And the reason why we want to return the word green is we add it now as an attribute of the columns here to the color value of this thing. And we say it's based on a field. We base it on our highest profit color. And theoretically, just like magic, our highest profit color number goes green because this matches our max. And so it changes it to green. It's pretty cool, huh? So that's a nifty little pattern for changing the top value in a column graph to green. So yeah, a little bit more advanced. So apologies if you're just getting started. You don't need to know that straight off the thing. But if you do want to change the number to green, and we can change that now if we want to make that red, for example, we just type red. So I can just use color names and Power BI, change everything else red, change that back to gray, change this to red. And so Power BI, you can just pass in the name of a color. As long as it's like a known color, it should kind of work. I don't know if you can do things like indigo or whatever, but we can try. Yep, indigo worked. It turned it purple. Violet. Yep, that worked too. Oh, that's cool, isn't it? I think you can also reference the theme colors, like theme color 1, theme color 2. I think I saw that in an update recently. I don't know if anyone knows about that. Date access options in Power BI aren't as flexible as Excel. Might save some space by changing the access to separate year and month dimensions, but this will change to categorically. I changed the category, stop it from dynamically resizing to fit all character. Yeah. You can change it to separate year and month. So we're talking about this axis down here. You can have it so that it stacks years and months on top of each other. So one way you could kind of represent this is instead of having it as the date, we get rid of the date for now and then put in like year and then month name and then get rid of that. And you can get this kind of situation. Now, why is this happening? He said to himself. The reason why is because they're in 2 separate years. That's why. Also, what happened to the sort order? That's crazy. So you have to be a bit careful. So we're not going to do that. Let's change it back to just the date because that was nice and clean. Yeah. So you can do some crazy stuff. Anyway, I have gone a little bit over time, but who cares? Streaming's fun. That's it for Lunch and Learn. We lunched and we learned. We made a cool report that I think does the job of what we said we wanted to do. It answers this question. And that's a good report. A good report answers the question. It doesn't have any fluff in it. This is maybe a little bit of fluff, but but it's cool. I like it. It adds value to the report. It helps answer this question. I really like the simplicity of it. And I think it does a better job than the sample. Because in the sample, this is the thing that's supposed to be answering that question. And I don't know if it does as good a job as this. Well, that's it, folks. We're done for another day. We will return next week for some more Lunch and Learn. Like next week isn't the 28th, so that's good. I think I'm not going to be doing Lunch and Learn on the 28th of November because I'm going to be speaking at the Dfinity conference in Auckland. So there you go. We also, coming up the 20th of November, have the Melbourne Power BI user group. It's at the Ventia head offices, which is in Cremorne. So if you're interested in coming to talk about Fabric and Power BI, we're going to be talking Fabric. Come and hang out and beer and pizza, etc. We also potentially have a new venue. I'm waiting to get confirmation for a new home for our Power BI meetup. We might be able to swap it around a few different venues if Ventia are still keen to host us as well. We'll see how we go with the 20th. It's our trial run, but it'll be great to see you all there in person. Dfinity Melbourne was cancelled due to lack of ticket sales, unfortunately. Sydney and Auckland are still on. And we're also potentially looking at just throwing we have a few people in town, Power BI people and Fabric people in town. So we're looking at the options of putting a little meetup together for that day, which will be the 3rd of December. So that's looking likely at this point, which would be great. We'll do a little afternoon session. We'll have a few lightning talks for some gurus that are here in town, and maybe have a bit of a Christmassy kind of last session of the year type thing as well. So look out for that. That'll be on the meetup. Thanks, folks. It's great to have you join me today. I had fun. We built something. We're going to build more stuff. Just going to keep building until we've learned Power BI properly. Hopefully that gave you some insight into what's possible in Power BI, and also, I didn't show you the coolest thing. Okay, see, if you're stuck around, you get to see the coolest thing. The coolest thing is now I can right-click on this and go analyze, explain the increase. And look at this. It just works. It just works. Why is there a 235% increase in total profit between those two dates? Well, because we sold a lot of Carraterra. Look at that Carraterra increase. And what else did we do? We also sold a lot of low discounted products so they were responsible for the bulk of that profit. I love explain the increase. It's my favorite feature in Power BI, I reckon. How cool is that? I'm going to save my report. I'm going to call it second report, and we're going to see you next week. Thanks, folks. It's good to see you all. I'm going to do some kind of thing where my face is big, and then I'm going to end the stream in just a few seconds. So bye.